Hi everyone, I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest, Faye Gibson-Brydon, who comes to us with 45 years of experience, more than half that focusing on legal settings. She has deaf family, she is an agency owner, she is a mentor, she's been and done almost everything. She also hosts an annual 6-month-long mentor shop, which pairs mentoring and workshops. If you notice anything odd about the audio and video, it's because I bought some new technology for the IHI channel, and this was the first interview that we got to play with it. So bear with us a little bit. And if you stay till the very end, there's some behind the scenes footage to check out. So let's go meet Bonnie.
Well, let me start. I do have deaf family. I have a deaf cousin and an uncle, not of the same family. Aunt and uncle, deaf cousin. My aunt and uncle have passed. My cousin is very strong and well and doing phenomenal. He's 6'4", I'm 4'11", so we like to do our little dance, you know. He's amazing, and his language, is amazing. But we learned home signs, or, I wasn't real skilled. And I walked into the college and I said, I want to be an interpreter. And
Catch that.
And the coordinator started laughing and she goes, oh, okay. And so I talked to her about Billy, my cousin, and the way we played together. And so she sent me to a history class and I sat down, started to sign. Or so I thought. I was lousy. I was bad. I was doing something with my hands, not so much signing. But I was smart enough to notice their expressions, or if they weren't happy, or so we finished with the class. I went to my boss, and she goes, "They've already been here. Sit down." So I sat down, and she goes, "Sign for me." So I did, and she went white, and she goes, "I can't believe I put you in that classroom." And I'm young. I'm young, so I don't have any professional accountability or whatever. I don't have the ethics. I don't have
Bilateral awareness.
And she goes, a few explicatives. And there was no ITP program at that time. And she goes, well, honey, the only thing I can do for you is put you with a group of 7. And she put me with this group of 7. Well, it took 2 weeks before I lifted my head up. I mean, I was like so embarrassed. I didn't know what to do. And finally, this deaf guy reaches over and he taps the table in front of me. And I kind of look up and I go back down. And he taps the table. He goes, you've been here for 2 weeks. What's up? So I told him, I need you. You need me. He goes, I don't need you. And I go, please need me. And I mean, I was embarrassed so much during those first couple of years. My mentor in the 70s was Diana Tapua, deaf. And she loved language. I love language, so that brought us together. But how she was so smooth with the language, it just gave me such appreciation for the community. When I got hired into the LA courts, I was full-time, and it was really interesting because I went into the interviewee, and I'm sure many of you have done the same thing. They don't know who we are, and they don't know what we do. So when we finished, it was the first time, and he said, this is the first time I have felt like I've been interviewed during an interview, because I just kept asking and asking. And I'm a teacher at heart. I mean, there's 5 generations of teacher in my family.
Yeah.
And my grandma was the best teacher of all of them, And so my sister's a teacher. We talk teaching. My daughter-in-law is a teacher. So I'm not a teacher. I am a trainer. And what that means is I get you for a short time and then I let you go. I thought about my mentor shop, my boardroom mentor shop. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I like that 6 month is because I get you for 6 months.
Yeah.
And you get me for 6 months. I mean, it's both ways. I'm really about the learning. And that's when I opened up Bonnie Faye and I opened up Grow Professionally. And Bonnie Faye has kind of been slow because Grow Professionally has just taken off and captured my attention and done amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You work with a deaf attorney, and that is So cool. Do you want to speak about what that experience has been for you, how it's changed you as a professional, and how it changes maybe the way you view your work, or just any impacts it's had in other branches of the work you do?
I was interpreting legally for over 25 years. I have a greater awareness of the entire legal process, motions. We don't get that as legal interpreters when we're working with defendants. They don't think we need that information. And I think that's one of the most important things. As I have already established the boardroom mentorship for 6 months, I am working with another attorney in LA for a 4-month legal workshop.
Wow.
And the reason why I'm doing that is because we had a situation where none of the legal interpreters were available, so they brought in an interpreter. She had one legal workshop, and she says, I had my workshop, I'm ready to go. And she didn't know what to do or how to work the courtroom. And when I am the first interpreter they work with for the first time in court, I just want to wrap my arms around them and say, let's talk about how you're thinking. Let's talk about how you're thinking through this. And we are, for example, allowed to meet with the defendant and talk with the defendant. Well, the defendant automatically started taking advantage of her. He kept asking questions. He kept going, I don't know, and changing the subject when she was trying to, and I think we need to talk about what it looks like in a courtroom, not from a workshop point of view, but how do you think it? How do you really get into thinking when you walk into an environment?
Right.
Because you don't know how to think through a legal situation unless you get there. And the problem with that is you could get there and do a lot of not so good stuff.
So thinking on that, when I have no desire to be a legal interpreter, but I think of it as when I was younger, branching into interpreting in general, and just kind of not knowing some of those kind of like what if scenarios and how to handle them, and what if scenarios even to play out in my head to even think about how I would handle them. So I imagine that's something that would be very beneficial in a little longer training, such as 4 months, instead of just here you go in one day. This is what I can give you.
Right. This is what a courtroom looks like. This is what a courtroom feels like. And another thing too, a lot of legal workshops, a lot of the community out there thinks, I'm going to go to the workshop so I can learn legal terms. You don't in a legal workshop. You're supposed to already have some kind of awareness of the language. One of the other interpreters I worked with was, in the beginning, a little bit, don't be on me, don't be on me. And so I kind of backed off a little, and then it was like, be on me, when I let them go. Because legalese, when you're in court, it's always coming up. And you don't hear it if you don't know it. Yeah. So there's a lot of omission happening, and you're going up. And I was trained, and you learned this recently with ASL, that my mentor, who was deaf, threw signs at me all the time. So I tend to throw signs all the time, and that's not normal, I've learned.
I love that you mentioned that, because I've just recently started having a lengthier discussion about the feeding and how we can support each other with those feeds. In fact, just this week, awesome team, love working with this person, and they fed me something. I was able to work it in to the process, but there was a little bit of a hiccup there, and so I had a chance to talk to them afterwards and say, okay, what was it? What was the issue? And it opened up a dialogue for open feeds, and I said, let me give you complete carte blanche to just go ahead. Let's have it so that you can just have the deaf consumer look directly at you, get the information directly from how it was heard, instead of giving it to me and then giving it back, and allowing that direct open feed to happen. It worked out really well from an interpreting standpoint, but I also think from a deaf consumer standpoint, because instead of seeing this dialogue that's happening, they're getting, okay, that's the additional information, okay, and then continue. And it's been very successful in that regard.
So we can work on it right now. And that's okay. That's what teams are about. So we have, as teams, we've got to work with receiving information. We've got to work with giving information and be comfortable in our skins. No more of this horizontal violence of taking and picking on each other or being afraid of each other. We've got to come together and work together as a team.
Agreed.
And when we do that, then we shine. Interpreters shine. Oftentimes when we're in the hot seat, we're thinking about the main point, we're thinking about the supporting points, we're thinking about the resolution. This all came in. Sometimes that's 3 sentences, sometimes that's a complete paragraph. And if someone throws us a sign, I would like that all of us are confident enough or comfortable enough in our own skin that maybe we won't take our hand and do this and give it, but our emotions are, got it, and do this. We're still at a phase where we don't trust each other, and it's like, you gave me a sign, and sometimes I have done that, thrown a sign and gotten and I went, okay, so I know I can't do that again. And then when we have a break, I go, I am sorry, I just automatically feed signs, and I, apologize because I don't want to cause any kind of angst or anything. And usually by the end of the gig, if it's like 4 hours or longer, we're feeding each other, both of us at the same time. When the other interpreter feels comfortable in freedom of being able to add to the conversation, then the balance is better. When I'm in trial, I need that team to know that sometimes that judge is going to be mumbling, and if that judge is mumbling and I look at you, that means I need a feed. But all of this is communication with each other prior to the assignment. We would hope.
Yes, we would hope.
We would hope. One of the things you've got to have is rapport with the court. So you always go in introducing yourself, but who to introduce yourself first, that's the key. Sometimes it's the bailiff, sometimes it's the clerk, it's never the judge. You don't go up and, hello, Your Honor, I'm so-and-so. There's protocol. And I have seen interpreters will be off to a corner and a new interpreter will come right up to and step into the whale. Do you know, that's W-E-L-L. Sometimes my accent, they don't know what I'm saying. Not a whale that fishes, but a well that is in front of the judge.
That was definitely your accent.
You don't touch that area. But where do interpreters stand? In the well. But you always ask permission. It doesn't mean that we can't get close to the judge. It just means that we have to ask, Your Honor, is it okay? Or, whatever. Now, I don't approach the bench. What that means is like, this is the bench, I am here. When I'm an interpreter and I'm standing in the well, I'm here. You see this difference here. So there's still this honoring of the judge. That's why we leave that space free, because now he's like in a moat or lifted up. He's exalted. Judges are exalted. And he's also protected. So that's the whole concept of the well. It's all in our past of legal setting up, whatever, history. I either go for the clerk or the bailiff, depending on which one it is. If it's federal, I go to the clerk. And I give her my card and I introduce myself. And I always ask, have you ever worked with the hearing impaired before? And the reason why I use that word is because that's their word, not my word. And if they kind of went, well, then I'll instantly change it to the deaf, and working with the deaf. And when you're with the deaf, once she knows what I'm talking about, then I move her into my language, the deaf. I talk with her, find out who's my team, what's my team. Now that's just introductions. Let's suppose that, like last month, I got called to go to Arizona for a federal case. I call first the person who hires me, and I say, I need this, and this. I need all of the legal information that you would get from a workshop to know what to ask for. But it's quite a bit. It's a lot of reading before I get into the courtroom. I don't go into a courtroom without reading the case, the motions. Now I ask about motions. I didn't ask about motions before. Do I get them all the time? No. It really depends on who I ask. And the reason why I go with the coordinator that asked me, they know the courthouse, they know the clerks, so they don't always have to go to the courtroom where I'm going. They can get the paperwork in the court system. I have gone to the courtroom and gone to the clerk and asked for paperwork, and they freak. They panic. You want paperwork on the trial? You want to know what the trial is all about? They don't say that. I say that.
That's what it looks like.
You want what? I want the file. I would like to read the file. Is it okay if I read the file? Well, I got so many blocks and so many what? And so many, I just went, thank you. We're good. And then went straight to the interpreter coordinator and said, this is what I need. Now, it's funny because, let's see, I started with Carla Mathers, who is the #1 legal trainer ever. When she first dispersed her trainings, and a lot of people went to trainings, we would come home and the force would come up and say, we already do what we do. We don't want to have any new-ish ideas. Leave us alone. And I'm like going, but it's good, but it's good. So that request for reading is new. Those 4 that came up to me and said, we don't want this, now they are avid followers of Carla and all that she says to do. And it's really cool watching them at all the workshops that Carla presents and all of the questions and the changes that Carla has given our community. For some reason, we started out with, we can't know anything. We're just going to have to pick it up and find it too. Hello, give me all the information so I know what I want to do, so I know how to interpret, so I have a schema before I walk into the room. Does that mean that I know the questions that the attorneys are going to ask? No. And here's another thing about working in legalese. You've got to know the procedure of the courtroom, what's happening in the courtroom. You've got to be able to listen. And you know that's my number one thing. I'm a researcher on listening, and I'm really picky about we don't use our listening capacity. And I'm not talking about the ear. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about comprehension and how we're comprehending and what we're comprehending. Because there's a direction that happens with legalese. It's all about the direction of what's going on. If you are not aware of how to use direction, if you're not aware of what this information of the evidence is, because we have the defense evidence and we have the prosecutor's evidence, and they are supposed to be the same, but how they're shared, what angle they have, that's where it's all different.
Do you think because we went from such a strong helper model, we swung as a profession over to the conduit model, and we're trying to swing back into that bilingual, bicultural approach? Do you think because of the time period when you were getting that training, we were still closer to the conduit side of things, that mentality was more like, oh, I can't ask, I can't know because it's just coming through me. And the moment that I have any information, whether it's a motion or details about the case and the case file, instantly that takes me out of that conduit mentality, and now I have ownership of knowledge. Do you think that had anything to do with in the time frame of which we've changed our approaches to interpreting?
No doubt, yes, I think so. When I started, I was right close to my legal training, not my interpreting in the beginning. I didn't fit well with the conduit because that totally eliminates all inferential listening, which means what do we bring to the table? We bring our history, we bring our awareness, we bring our knowledge. So I didn't fit well in that. And when it went bye-bye, I was like, I can do this. I can understand this. And also, we have 3 clients. We don't just have the one. And everybody's talking about we have 2. Bonnie says, no, we have 3. Bonnie Faye. Bonnie Faye says we have 3. And the reason why is because we have our deaf client. We have our hearing client. So who's this 3rd client? I call it the message. That I personify, because these 2 are trying to get what? They're trying to get the message. And if we're not honoring this message and really trying to get the comprehension between the 2, 1, we're not going to have the resolution. 2, we're not going to have the message.
I've heard you mention that before in your workshops, and I've been taking that into my work because I think it's a beautiful way to think about how we break down the different pieces of information. One thing we definitely want to touch on is this really cool approach to the ethical tenets that Bonnie has remade and redone, and yeah, this is completely her idea and creation to set up the 7 tenets in a way that I've never seen before, and I would love for you to explain it a little bit more if you want to go ahead and grab your handout.
So as you're looking at this, you'll see that it's on a wheel. And let me give you a little bit of background. Being an instructor or being a trainer, I'm always looking for mnemonic techniques. And so this started out as a mnemonic technique. Then I started looking at it and I went, well, we got something really interesting here. So let me say the tenet has 1, 2, 3, I'm just like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tenets. Here it says professional skills and knowledge, and if you go straight across, it says professional development. So I started to notice that these 2 interact together. When we get to an assignment, there's a lot of this happening. We have a lot of influence, we have a lot of effect, and ripples happen all the time. And if you are taking care of your professional knowledge, then your professional development, you see, your knowledge and your development is going to go together. Now, if you're not taking care of your development, what happens is this becomes stilted. This becomes where you're not working with your professional development. You're not going to be professional in your work, if that makes sense. Down here, we have ethical business practices, and then right here, we have appropriate conduct. If we're not studying ethical business practices, if we're not studying that, we can't have appropriate conduct. It doesn't happen by happenstance. Our behavior doesn't happen just because, oh, I'm a good interpreter now. We have something called deliberate practice, and that's where we get into really thinking about our work, thinking before our work, about our work, thinking about our placement when we're in there, thinking about the main point, the subject line, the specific points, the restoration, all of these thoughts are in there. If we're not practice using what do I do ahead of time, when it comes to the point of having to do something with work, you don't have a foundation. So this influence or this bilateral awareness, which is what I call it, bilateral awareness, is I am now aware that my behavior, my studies, my to-do as a professional affects every part of my work. Putting it in this wheel has made a real impact for a lot of interpreters. I did an online workshop. Webinar, thank you. I've had interpreters that I don't know take that workshop, didn't know it was me, didn't know anything about me. But after the workshop, I have gotten so many comments and about, oh my God, this makes so much sense to me now. Mm-hmm. And you know me, I don't come in and dictate. I come in and ask. Mm-hmm. I'm really huge on inquiry because if I ask you a question, you've got to think about the answer. Mm-hmm. If I tell you the answer, it could just, professional interpreters are freaking amazing. Don't you think so?
Oh, I think so.
I think we are amazing because everything that we're doing mentally while we're working, it's impossible. You know that. It's totally impossible. But we pull off all the time. Mm-hmm. And the interpreter that really understands it's not about the word is going to have a good time getting into the message. But if you as a novice interpreter are still thinking about the word, not even the word means, the word, mm-hmm. it's you're going to be really stilted in your interpretation. It's like, get your head out of there. At the same time, I want you to think. Wait, Bonnie, you told me not to think. Wait, you're telling me to think. Wait, you told me not to think. Wait, And so the first few times that people are working with me, they go, I can't work with you, Bonnie.
What I love about this is it's talking about relationships. So the relationship that you mentioned, we go from our professional skills and our knowledge that goes directly back into our development because, as you said, they feed each other. They support
Absolutely.
each other. And
Absolutely.
so, and when I saw the wheel, and I think this is probably the connection a lot of the people who have been exposed to your teachings in regards to this have really responded to, is seeing those relationships. And once we see the relationships, we see how it's applicable in real life. We see the application to the ethics. We see how it's going to affect the deaf consumers, how it's going to affect our hearing consumers, how it's going to affect the message. So we see those relationships start to form mm-hmm. because we have a packaging now. Mm-hmm. It's not just random tenets. It's not just mm-hmm. random words. It's actual concepts that we have something to sink them into. Whereas before they were very abstract. It's these 7. I got to know these 7.
3.5 to 1.4 to 6 points. That's why that started, because I was so frustrated with a lot of the answers that I was given. I want thought. Mm-hmm. I want to touch it. I want to work with it. I want to understand that everything I bring to the table affects the job, mm-hmm. positively and negatively. Mm-hmm. I want to know that my awareness of these tenets is real. Mm-hmm. And our job has numbers in it, but it's not a numerical formula or an equation. It's life.
Yeah.
And so we have to talk about professional conduct. We have to talk about professional development. And do the two really help? But let's start a conversation with this wheel.
What would you tell these interpreters who want to branch out into the field of legal interpreting?
A couple of things. One, find Carla Mathers. Find Carla Mathers, find her book, find her teachings, because she gets into how to assess, how to be in the environment, and take her trainings. See if there's a coordinator, a courthouse, and contact the coordinator of interpreters and say that, be gutsy, say that you're a skilled interpreter. If you're really actively learning and actively participating in your deliberate practice of learning how to interpret. I say all of those words because it's more than just showing up at the hot seat. If you're an interpreter that just shows up for the hot seat and just works that, don't come into legal, please. I want to emphasize how important it is to learn to think how to think, to understand the environment, to understand legalese. The other thing is you find a mentor, you find someone that's working in the field, and you start talking to them. But you don't start talking about, can I come and do it? Can we talk about it? This is what I read in Carla's book. This is with questions that I want to ask you. The other thing is, now can I come in and watch you? The discussion happens before you come in and watch, because this will give you some things that you're supposed to watch for. Once you get there and you're watching your mentor work in a legal environment, the questions come up even more than that. But because you had the discussion, you have more refined questions when you're actually in the environment. Also, one workshop is not going to help you. We have trainers in our area, and there's a lot of them. And this is really important. I gotta move in on this one. You will never get 100% of wisdom from one teacher. They have a bias that is unhealthy. Even I get to watch or go in and watch interpreters and enjoy watching them. I like James Foster. I hope you don't mind me throwing your name out there, James, because of his use with language, because of his awareness of legalese, because of his smoothness in the community. He's freaking amazing. In Orange County, Carol, who is now moving to Texas, is not there anymore, but smooth with the client. So I'm watching, even now, after over 25 years of being a legal interpreter, that's nice. Let me borrow that. And we still enjoy each other and learn from each other. In Orange County, they had 2 interpreters, and often they were without to do during the day or during the week because we don't have that many cases back to back to back. LA is a little bit different. It's got 250 million people, so out of that 10%, you're going to have a lot more cases. But not enough for everybody to become a full-time legalese interpreter. Or a legal interpreter. So you're going to be doing different things. You're going to be a courtroom interpreter. You're going to be a deposition interpreter. You're going to be a freelance interpreter. You're going to be a VRS interpreter. You're going to be all of this, or else you do legal work and then you do something else. And most of us interpreters do something else already anyway.
What is the certification process for legal interpreters?
Well, first off, you can't take any legalese test without having certification in the beginning already. And right now, we don't have a legal test available. However, the Department of Justice is working on something, so keep your ears open.
What is something that's adding value to your work as an interpreter today?
You.
Aw, shucks. Hope I'm not turning red. I have too much makeup on for you to see me turning red right now.
Okay. 45 years experience, and people are saying, are you ready to retire? And I am, but I'm not, I am, my hands are getting tired, poor little things, but I've got a second wind, and I've got a second wind because of you.
Oh, thanks.
I've got a second wind because of Kim. I have a second wind because of you, because you care about your work. Kim cares about her work. My boardroom mentor shop. I have a group of people that I get really close to, and how we learn how to think, how we process information. That's what's really inspired me. I like you. I like how you're learning. I like the deliberate practice. I like the I want to know more. I like the camaraderie. So your curiosity, your desire to keep growing, your playing with the language. Have you seen some of your interpretations? Oh my goodness, the songs and all that. There's some talent out there. That's my inspiration. That's my fascination, is what's going on in the field. And the other thing, that CDI work, CDIs are being put more and more and more. We need it. They should be there. It's phenomenal. There is language that is surfacing. I mean, in our mentor shop, we have 3 CDIs in that mentor shop.
Yeah.
And there was 2 individuals sitting here, and the CDI just gave an expression, and the ASL interpreter watching this expression just started laughing. He goes, the language that just came out of that. And I said, and that's why you're here. Yeah. And the sharing, that's my inspiration.
One other question I had for you is, in the field of interpreting, what do you think is missing?
Kindness. There is a lot of kindness out there. There's some good people out there. But we're not healed in and of ourselves if we're still pointing a finger outward. Because it's not about what they didn't do. It's about what are we doing. And the kindness and the encouragement, that's what I'd like to see more. Even to the point of where we can throw signs at each other without feeling like, what, I'm not doing a good job? I didn't say that. Here's an ASL term that might fit that. Yeah. And being able to take it and go, oh, look at that, and to incorporate it. Just, it's not that we're mean. Mm-hmm. It's just sometimes we're not nice. And I think we're better than that as professionals.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, too, that the world looks at us as professionals. And we are.
We are.
We're schooled, we're educated, we're brilliant with what we do. I really believe that we need to bring our professionalism up. And as we do that and include the kindness and we do our deliberate practice, you can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah. Well, spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down.
Yeah.
So, if we have something that we want to improve on, we want to get better at, when we're open to the world to give us that feedback, and we're open to our teams to give us that feedback, we need to make sure that we're giving that feedback with that kindness and the sugar that those teams, and honoring our teams is very important to me, because there's not enough of us. We go into team assignments, and this is not you doing half of the job as an independent team, I'm doing my half as an independent team. The word team means we are working together. Mm-hmm. And if you're on your phone or you're daydreaming or you're not engaged, then you're not my team. You are working an independent assignment, and you signed up for a team's assignment. So I really respect when teams come in and they're ready to get, because this is when you're not ever in an off chair. There's no such thing as the off chair.
Oh, no.
I hate that. And it's not also a monitoring chair. It's not our job to monitor. It's our job to support. We're there to be the behind the scene person for the person who's in the leading chair at the moment. So it's really, the more we can get together and support each other and not tear down each other, the better not only we're going to have as a profession be cohesive, but we're also going to be giving a better message to our consumers, because they're going to be seeing how our work is going to be going together. It's not one hand working, one other hand working separately. It's the 2 hands working together.
Yeah. Well, we're growing a lot.
We are growing exponentially, and we need each other.
Absolutely, we need each other. Yes, we do.
To grow forward, as Bonnie likes to say.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time. Grow forward. Yeah.
To grow professionally, to grow forward.
Yeah.
Well, Bonnie, thank you so much for your time and sharing some of your knowledge, not only with me, but with those interpreters who are listening.
Yes.
Because we need each other. We need each other, and that's the whole goal behind this whole podcast, YouTube channel, is for us to grow together. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for viewing us too.
Love you all. Bye. I love that we're so busy. People think I'm crazy with the schedule I keep, but I love my schedule, even though it's a little crazy. I do love it.
Okay.
The way you got so excited.
I am excited. I said, okay, I'm not deaf. You know this. And so they said,
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, I'm hearing. So we can see how much you love playing with language.
I love playing with language.
Just from the fact
I
that
love language.
that you have.